Georgia and Alabama meeting in the SEC Championship this Saturday at 4 o'clock on ABC. Haven't we seen this game before? I think we have. I mean, even with adding all those teams over the years, and this is the game that we're getting. And I mean, look, I'm not a Dog fan. I'm not part of the Crimson Tide, but I will have to say it is impressive that even with all the really good teams that we've seen, especially this season in the SEC, there you go, Georgia and Bama to decide it all for the SEC Championship. Alabama right now is a 2.5-point underdog. You thought I was going to say favorite. Underdog in this game. Georgia, they do extremely well in Mercedes-Benz Stadium and in the SEC Championship. But hey, look, this is against Bama, and we know how Kirby fares against Bama. So I'm going to talk about that in just a second. First, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're hanging out with me on another college football podcast. If you love talking college football, you're round. I hope you'll subscribe. It is free. Pass it along. I really do appreciate it. Now, I'm sitting here looking at all the times that these two teams have got together in the SEC Championship. They got together in 2023. Alabama beat them 27-24. 2021, Alabama beat Georgia 41-24. We'd have to look back at 2018. Alabama beat Georgia 35-28. And you'd have to go back to 2012. You have Alabama beating Georgia 32-28. Overall, these are extremely competitive games, and the eyes of the country will be on this game because not only do you have the playoff, the playoff, both these teams are going to the playoff. We know that. But whoever wins this game is going to get a bye. Some would argue that even the loser will get a bye. I don't know about that. We'll leave that up to the committee. Who knows what they're thinking? But really the key to this game is looking at Alabama, knowing that they went to Georgia earlier this year and they won in Athens. It was a 3-point game. It was a really good game. In fact, it was the first test that Alabama had had since that now extremely head-scratching loss at Florida State. That was a long time ago. Now, Alabama, they did suffer a loss against Oklahoma, a 2-point loss. And I'm going to tell you this, that's catapulted the Sooners in the eyes of the country. So it's not like Alabama hasn't been tested. They have lost, and in fact, just came out of the Iron Bowl, and that was a really close game with an Auburn team who just fired their head coach. On the other side, you have revenge, and they want revenge bad. I mean, you don't go to Athens, Georgia, and just win, even if it is a close game. But Bama did it. But guess what? That is Georgia's only loss of the season. That was a long time ago. Also want you to step back and think about this. How many coaches, I mean, this is a side note, how many coaches in the country still had their job when Georgia and Bama played? It's crazy. That's a whole other video. But anyway, Georgia ended up beating Ole Miss and former head coach Lane Kiffin. They demolished Texas. If there's any reason that Texas would be left out of the college football playoff, and by the way, I think they should, it's that Georgia just a few weeks ago absolutely destroyed them. Now, the Bulldogs had a close one with Georgia Tech. To me, a little closer than most people expected, especially after Georgia Tech got smacked around by Pittsburgh. Cost them a trip to the ACC Championship. Yet again, another video. But they come into this game, I believe, very focused. I believe that this game will probably end up being the best game of the weekend. I know Ohio State and Indiana, both teams undefeated. One is a blue blood of college football, the defending national champions, versus a team that's just come out of nowhere with a very focused head coach. But these two, Georgia and Bama, we know the country is watching this one. So what is really the key to the game here? To me, it comes all the way down to their quarterbacks. We could talk about how Jam Miller has battled. He's battled injuries. I think right now I'm looking at covers.com. I'm looking at the injury report. I know that Jam Miller is questionable for this Saturday, and maybe this is not updated and he's totally done. But both teams are missing players that, from starters all the way. Well, it's a question of whether they'll be missing starters all the way to people who will be out. And of course, that's going to affect the game. But to me, with everything that is going on, it really comes down to Gunnar Stockton, and it comes down to Ty Simpson. Now, I like both of these guys. I obviously I don't know a ton about them, but they seem like the type of leaders that any team would want on the field guiding their football team. Why? Well, they go out and bust their butt. They take the game upon their shoulders. So again, maybe you're like me. I'm not a Bulldog. I'm not an Alabama fan. With that said, I can appreciate how hard both of these guys work. And the end result, the dedication to their team, the end result, well, they're in the SEC championship. So with all of that said, it's going to come down to which one of these quarterbacks actually makes a mistake. Now, let's look at said mistakes. Talking about interceptions. Gunnar Stockton's thrown the ball 329 times. He's thrown 5 interceptions. He's thrown 20 touchdowns, but let's talk about the mistakes. On the other hand, you have Ty Simpson, who's thrown the ball 60 more times and has 1 less interception. It's crazy. He has 25 touchdowns. The running back situation with Frazier at Georgia. Then you turn around and you look at Zachariah Branch, the transfer out of Southern Cal. I mean, I'm telling you, that move he put on the Georgia Tech player when he caught the ball and then flipped back around, that was brilliant. That was really, I sat there and I thought about what a high IQ play it really is, because you have the motion of physics driving even the player that way, and then just on one foot spin on a dime, and you're back in the end zone. I mean, there's no guarding that. On the other side, you have Jeremy Bernard. The question here, to me, you can look over defense, you can look over offense, is the quarterbacks. Which quarterback makes a mistake? But maybe we could twist this around and ask really this question: which defense can make these two unbelievable quarterbacks make a mistake? There's a part of me that wants to say, and when I say want, it's not because I'm pulling for them. There's a part of me that wants to say Georgia wins this ball game. Georgia's defense comes out and they hit the Alabama line as hard as they possibly can. They're dogs. They're crazy. They live up to the whole just rough nature of the Bulldog persona. And then I stop and I go, Alabama went to their house and won. And yes, I know it's hard to beat a team twice in 1 year. But there's just something in me, and maybe it's bad Chinese food that I ate. It's making me wrong. I see something with Alabama. I see an extra something with Ty Simpson, that when this Georgia defense comes after him, I believe that he will end up leading his team to victory. I think that Alabama will get a stop, and I believe Alabama will win the SEC championship and move on to a bye round, and probably either them or Ohio State get a first. Well, I probably not get the first seed for Alabama, but a number 2 seed. I could definitely see that. If Georgia wins, I could see them getting potentially a 1 seed, according to what happens to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. But I see the Crimson Tide winning this game and etching yet another SEC championship under their belt. Tell me in the comment section, who do you think wins this game? I want to know, do you think which defense gets the stop? Which quarterback do you see making the mistake that cost them everything in this game? Pass this along. I do appreciate it. Appreciate you watching the channel. Hope you'll pass it along on forums, Facebook, etc. Hope you'll subscribe. It is free. Y'all take care of yourself. Catch you next.